Hey Geography peeps, we haven't done this in a while, but welcome back to Geography More, where we cover some extra little tidbits and factoids that didn't quite make it into the previous episodes. So today's episode is going to be on Bahrain, Bangladesh, and Barbados. Ooh, a lot of good stuff. Let's jump into it right now. So as you guys know, I personally went to Bahrain last year for the Geography Go episode, so I kind of feel like, based off of personal experience, I'm a little bit more wiser than I was when I made the Bahrain video. One thing I kind of noticed is that these oil fields just kind of like saturate the landscape of the entire country with these pipes that are elevated above the ground, and they just kind of go from the refineries to the transport centers. It's almost as if the whole country has like an oil circulatory system. Unlike many of the other countries in the Middle East or Gulf area, Bahrain doesn't really have any sand dunes. It's mostly just rocky and flat. There are a few hills, but it's mostly rocky. The other thing about Bahrain is that although it is classified as a Muslim state, the laws are incredibly loose and it is pretty generally very tolerant of other religions. You can find Christian churches and even Hindu temples all over the country. When I was in the grocery store, I even remember there was a sign that said Happy Diwali. In fact, this woman right here, Huda Ezra Ibrahim Nonu, probably totally butchered her name, she is the Bahraini ambassador to the US, and she is actually not only that, but the first Jewish woman to represent any Arab Middle Eastern country in the world. Yes, the country does still kind of technically have a law based off of Islamic code and policy, but for what it's worth, they are pretty generally open. I also noticed a lot of the people in Bahrain weren't even really that religious, as in Islam was more of like a cultural trait that they adhered to rather than an actual worldview or belief. Even in grocery stores, they have a non-Muslim pork section. Also forgot to mention that because of the high expat ratio, there are actually about twice as many men as there are women in the country. Seriously, walking down the streets, you'll probably find more men than women. And this actually applies to a lot of Gulf countries, not just Bahrain. Now I know in the video I mentioned that they get most of their water through the Dammam aquifer and they kind of desalinate the water from the sea, but it's interesting because in the north part of the island, they actually have freshwater springs that come up from the sea. It's a little strange, but that's a cool little phenomena that happens on the north side of Bahrain. So in the last Geography Go episode, you guys remember that I went to Bahrain Fort, otherwise known as Qalat al-Bahrain. It looked amazing. It was a beautiful archaeological site of Bahraini history. However, Bahrain actually has quite a few forts, such as the Arad Fort built at the end of the 15th century, the Sheikh Salman bin Ahmed Al Fatah Fort, and the Bu Mahir Fort. For such a small country, they have a lot of history behind it. Now here's the thing, in the Middle East and in the Gulf countries, most men kind of generally dress the same way. They have the thobe. However, I was told that there are some subtle discrepancies between the way how some people in some of the countries dress versus others. So this is a thobe that was given to me from my subscriber in Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much, Sultan and Ahmed. I forgot to put this on. This is called a kafiyah. This is called an agal. It's used to hold the kafiyah in place. I'm not good at this. I'm terrible at this. Okay, something like this. So what I was told is that the Saudi way of doing it is that the collar is always buttoned and tight, whereas the Bahraini style, they just kind of let it all loose and let the collar out. Yeah, that's like Bahraini style. Saudi, Bahraini. Saudi, Bahraini. Probably totally wrong, but this is what I was told. So hey, I mean, I want to dance in this thing. Finally though, I would say the coolest thing about Bahrain that I personally thought was the fact that it's one of the only few places in the world where you can see Arabs and Persians getting along just fine and they're totally cool with each other. Remember in the Geography Go video, Laith's friends Muhammad and Ali? Ali was Persian, Muhammad was Arab. They go to the same schools, they eat the same food, they live the same lifestyles, they're really cool with each other. I mean, in every other political context, you would not see that pretty much anywhere else in the world. I mean, in Bahrain, they kind of joke about it a little bit here and there, but they don't really take it too seriously, and they're cool. They're all friends. That's, I think, probably one of the most special things about Bahrain that I noticed. So let's move on. Bangladesh. Okay, so the first thing about Bangladesh that I didn't really quite expound upon that I wished I could have, but I didn't, was the fact that you have to be careful when you call somebody Bengali, because there are people who are Bengali that don't identify with coming from Bangladesh. Pretty much the entire northeast region surrounding Bangladesh in India identifies as a Bengali area. So it's better to refer to somebody from Bangladesh as a Bangladeshi, even though culturally they might identify as a Bengali as well. Just make distinctions, okay? Now the sad thing is, population versus tourist ratio-wise, Bangladesh actually is the world's least visited country. This is kind of strange because Bangladesh actually has a lot of cool tourist spots, such as the Kantaji Temple, tons of Buddhist and Hindu temples, clothes dyeing factories. A famous filmmaker even built a replica of the Taj Mahal because a lot of people in Bangladesh don't have the money to actually go to India and check it out for themselves. So he was like, hey, I'm gonna build one for you guys. The other thing about Bangladesh is that it kind of has like 6 seasons and not 4. Summer, rainy, autumn, cool, winter, and spring. Dhaka, the capital city, is one of the most most condensed and heavily populated urban centers in the world, with about 45,000 people per square kilometer. Now, a cool thing that I didn't mention that I thought I could have, but I forgot to, was the fact that the national game is called kabaddi. Kabaddi is weird. It's kind of like a mixture between tag, chasing, and wrestling, but the whole time you have to like hold your breath. It's actually really big out here, and they have leagues that go across multiple nations. One of the reasons why the country doesn't have a lot of tourists is because it does kind of make a lot of national headlines in regards to like natural catastrophes or political strife. Plus, they don't exactly score very high when it comes to the Human Well-Being Index. Child labor is quite rampant throughout the entire country, as about 90% of kids, some as young as 5 years old, start working. The country is known for its high rates of human trafficking. Also, I forgot to mention that around 250 million Bengali is actually like the 7th most commonly spoken language in the world. I mean, if you want to learn it, great. I'm just saying, you're probably only going to be able to use it in Bangladesh or East India. And with that, we're going to take a little break because I want to mention right now that just like last time, one of my favorite sources of information, Audible, is sponsoring Geography Now. I love Audible because as a kid, I hated reading. I mean, unless if there was like a shiny, colorful picture jammed in front of my face, I wouldn't even pay attention. So audiobooks actually really helped. I totally recommend Understanding Cultural and Human Geography by Professor Paul Robbins. It's a little complex, it's a little in-depth, but if you think you can handle it, great. And if you use the code audible.com/geography, you can get a free 30-day trial. So basically, free stuff. Yeah, you like free, right? Free. So do it because it's free for 30 days, but still free. Thank you, Audible. Love you guys. Moving on. Now, I feel like I did a little bit of injustice to the Barbados episode because I didn't quite exactly explain why the island is positioned it is in the Caribbean. Barbados is weird because it's built differently than all the other Caribbean islands. If you look at a map, you'll notice all the other Antilles lie along a single fault line, but Barbados lies awkwardly to the east. This is because Barbados is on what you call an ascensionary wedge. This is caused when a tectonic trench just kind of scrapes up whatever the subducting plate leaves behind, creating a weird bulging sediment landmass. In return, this makes Barbados a unique coral island in which coral makes up the majority of the land sediments. In addition to limestone deposits, this is also why there are so many caves and gullies that can be found all over, and almost all the beaches have white sand. Barbados is also considered one of the most developed of the Caribbean nations, one of the most developed, which is why it's sometimes called the Singapore of the Caribbean. Grapefruits were actually invented in Barbados as they were a cross between oranges and pomelos. Bridgetown has an interesting story behind its name. It was called that way because the island was deserted, but there was a bridge left over from the former inhabitants. So the British colonists were like, okay, let's just call this Bridgetown. Barbados is also the only country that the first US president, George Washington, visited outside of the US. Barbados also has one of the oldest legislatures in the world, as the first assembly met in 1639. You will probably find a lot of pork dishes on Barbados due to the fact that the island has historically been known for being a pig haven. When the first colonialists came, they noticed that the island was deserted from its former inhabitants, but there were a ton of pigs left over in the jungles. And the last thing is that for pretty much all of its modern history, Barbados has been under the British Crown. However, in November of 2016, they plan to finally become a republic on their 50th anniversary and drop the British monarch, Queen Elizabeth, and become a republic with a president. Ooh, someone's going renegade. Oh, and Rihanna, I'm still waiting on you. Alright, so that's been it. Thanks for watching this episode of Geography More. Hope you guys are doing well. Stay tuned.